Hi there, it's Ruth Backlund from Energy Works Myofascial Release. Thank you for downloading my free guide on the 5 keys to improve your health and wellness. And what I wanted to do is, even though I know people can read through this, sometimes having a little more context with the information is helpful. So I wanted to kind of walk you through it and probably elaborate on a few of the points that are in here as well. So the 5 keys to improve health and wellness. The number one thing for me is water. Water is life for sure. So that's the first one that I talk about, but there's water, nutrition, there's stretching, there's movement, and then there's rest and sleep. Okay, you need all of them. So for water, nearly 75% of us are dehydrated. I can't tell you how many times I'll have a client come in and they'll tell me they have 2 or 3 glasses of water a day and the rest of the time they're drinking coffee. They are very dehydrated. And then of course when you go into the store or the gas station, what are all the things that you see? You see all the coffee drinks, you see all the sodas, all the sugary drinks that are there, all the powered drinks. And that's what people tend to buy and they tend to drink. What they really need to drink is water, okay? So to avoid that dehydration, I'm going to encourage you to step up your water intake a bit. It's going to help you in a lot of different ways. It's going to help your body recover. It's going to help your body function better. So if you have a lot of sore, achy muscles and just on a day-to-day basis, you'd be surprised how much water will help you. And if you find like you're hungry all the time, drink some water. Drink water before you grab something to eat because chances are you're actually thirsty and not really hungry. That's how water plays a part in your body, okay? So from a myofascial standpoint, water is really critical in keeping things moving and flowing. So have you ever looked at a dry sponge and noticed how a dry sponge doesn't work very well, right? It's really stiff and brittle. A moist sponge is very flexible and it can move in many different directions. So that's the same as your body. When your body's dehydrated, your muscles are really kind of tacked down. Your system's not moving as fluid as it can be, so you can actually be more prone to injury. You really do need to be hydrated. And that fascial system helps with all that movement, so you need to keep that hydration level up. So how much water should you drink, right? So we hear people should drink anywhere from 8 to 10 8-ounce glasses of water in a day. Well, that's a general number, but it really depends on you, okay? It depends on how much you weigh will really kind of dictate how much your body needs to function because it depends on your own system and feeding all your organs and keeping your body hydrated. So a good rule of thumb is to divide your weight by 2 and then divide it again by 8. That will give you the number of 8-ounce glasses of water you should be drinking every day, okay? Now I'm gonna say you're gonna wanna start off every morning with at least 1 glass of water. 2 are probably better, but at least 1 just to get things hydrated. You haven't been drinking all night long, chances are. You've been sleeping, so your body's already in a dehydrated state. So to start off your day with a glass of water is one of the best things you can do, okay? So again, that formula for staying hydrated is divide your weight by 2 and then divide it again by 8. So for example, and there's some examples in the guide here as well. I'm just going to pick the one in the middle. If you're 150 pounds, you want to divide that by 2, gives you 75, okay? Divide that by 8. And it gives you 9.3 or 9.4, about 9.5 glasses of water, okay? So now that's a good rule of thumb. Not many of you, I'm sure, are drinking that much water. And then if you think about it, if you're having any therapy, if you're having myofascial release therapy, physical therapy, some other massage therapy, you probably should be drinking a couple more glasses when you're having therapy because your body needs that extra water to release those toxins. And if you're physically active, you need to drink more water. Chances are you need to drink at least 2 or 3 more glasses of water. So you need to add that on top of what you're drinking. And then if you're in a warm climate, now we're in northern Minnesota, so it's not very warm here, but we do get our hot, humid days. So if you're in a warm climate and you're sweating quite a bit, you need to drink more water then too, okay? So now if you drink a lot of coffee, caffeinated coffee, that naturally will dehydrate you. So for every 1 cup of coffee you drink, you need 2 glasses of water. So when I say that 75% of Americans are dehydrated, you can understand why. Because most people aren't getting their basic amount. They're probably drinking 3 or 4 glasses of water in a day and that's it. And the rest are drinking sugary drinks and coffee and energy drinks. They need to drink more water, probably 4 times of what they're naturally getting. So that will improve your health and wellness. It will help your organs and your muscles work so much more efficiently and better, okay? So that's water. The next is nutrition. Now we know all these fad diets are out there. If you look in the grocery store, probably 80% of what's in the grocery store is garbage, okay? Most of it's processed food. Now, long time, a lot of processed foods, trying to change my habits. It's a work in progress. But the goal is to really shop the perimeter of your grocery store, okay? Anything that's naturally coming out of the ground or naturally coming off a tree, naturally grown, is going to be better for you than something that's processed and put together with a whole lot of chemicals that your body doesn't recognize and it doesn't feed your body. It puts in calories, but it doesn't actually nourish your body, okay? So then we see a lot of symptoms that come out of that. We see a lot of headaches. We see a lot of obesity even from all the processed foods. Even if the caloric intake is down, your body doesn't recognize it as nutrition and our metabolism shrink, okay? So we put on a lot of weight. So if you're struggling with weight loss, if you're struggling with putting on weight, take a look at what you're eating. It very well may be that your nutrition is a big part of what's contributing to it. It might not be the quantity, it might be what you're eating versus how much you're eating. Or maybe you're not eating enough and you need to eat more for your body to feel like it's not starving anymore, okay? So now the other thing too is there's a lot of fad diets out there. Guess what? Unless you physically cannot have something like gluten intolerant or something like that, you should be eating from all the food groups. You shouldn't be skipping out on your carbs. You shouldn't be skipping out on your fats. You need them all. You need everything. Your body is meant to function with all of this. There's some things your body can't produce on their own that you have to get it from your food, okay? So, and what you're eating is also as important as when you decide to eat. Yeah, when. So, and I'll talk a little bit about this as we get into the sleep and rest piece as well, but if you understand that certain foods are meant for certain things, food is a fuel in your body, it does certain functions, it might make sense why you might want to eat some things earlier in the day and avoid some things later in the day, okay? So, and again, you want to eat from all food groups. Carbs are not your enemy, fat is not your enemy, okay? So carbohydrates, they give you energy. So when I say some things you should have earlier in the day, you don't want to have carbs late at night because they're meant to give you energy. So if you're trying to wind down to go to sleep at night, the last thing you need is something that's going to give you energy. It's probably not going to let you fall asleep, or it's going to give you some really wild dreams because your brain is on overdrive because you've just fed your brain a massive amount of carbohydrates, okay? So carbohydrates give you energy. Vegetables fill you up, give you a lot of healthy fiber, lots of good nutrition. Protein, those are the building blocks of your body. You need protein in your body. And they help keep you fuller longer, okay? So they help with that satiety once you've eaten. And then fruits, again, give your body lots of energy. They give you a lot, and they're filled with antioxidants. So, I mean, just so good for your body. But again, you tend to want to have them earlier in the day because they give your body energy, okay? They are a carb, but they're a fiber-filled carb, okay? So they're more of a dense nutrition factor for us. And then fats. You actually need fat in your diet. You need fat to help with vitamin absorption. And some fat your body can't produce. So if it's not getting it in its diet, you're just missing it altogether, okay? So we've talked about artificial food. We've talked about processed food. And you know, even like the diet sodas and things like that, your body doesn't recognize this stuff. So you know what happens? It stores it as fat until it can process it. It doesn't really know what to do with it because it's not really food, okay? That's true with your diet sodas. It's true with a lot of the processed foods as well. And then if you think about it too, there are some things that in our body that trigger more inflammation than others. And a lot of that can come from our food as well. So if we have diets that are high in saturated fats, high like red meat, really fatty cheeses, heavy cheeses, things like that. Those are more of a precursor for an inflammatory response in your body, which can cause an increase in pain levels, okay? And it can cause other things as well, but that's one of them. And then if we think about the fatty acids that are better for us, like the omega-3s with our salmons and nuts and seeds, things like that, that's actually an anti-inflammatory precursor. So when you look at red meats aren't necessarily the enemy. I love them, I eat them all the time, but you need to have them in moderation. And then you need to have things that are more lower in the saturated fat. But you need all of it, okay? So that's what I want to talk about from a nutrition standpoint. Then stretching. I'm a myofascial release therapist, so stretching is my passion, right? Well, stretching serves a lot of different purposes in life, okay? It can be for prior to going to a workout. It could be right after you've done a workout. It could be maybe you're recovering from an injury, or you've done a whole lot of things and you just need to undo what you've done all day long. Or maybe you've got some, maybe your habits are you sit all day long and your body's all tight and compressed. I mean, how many times have you taken a long road trip and get out of the car and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm stiff? Well, because your body's all tight. It needs to be stretched, okay? One of the things I find is that most people don't know how to stretch, unless they were an athlete in school or an athlete somewhere else. Maybe they go to the gym and they already have somebody that they're working with that has taught them how to stretch. Not all of them do, unfortunately. But if they've learned how to stretch, then they can figure out how to keep their body nimble and flexible. Because what happens when we're not nimble or flexible, we get really tight and we're actually more prone to injury. So it's really important to stay flexible and stretch. Yoga is awesome for stretching. So if you can get into a yoga class somewhere, go to a yoga studio or do some yoga at home, that's a great way to increase your flexibility and stretch. There's also myofascial stretching. Myofascial stretching is more of a corrective stretch. And there's differences in how you hold the time on them as well. So, if we think about going to a gym workout, then we're doing a stretch that is more to warm up the tissues, warm up the muscles that we're going to be working during that workout. A myofascial stretch, which isn't just that, hey, I'm just warming things up for 30 to 60 seconds, or it might even be 15 seconds. It's a really small amount. A myofascial stretch is a longer stretch. It takes a minimum of 90 seconds just to start a myofascial release, okay? We really want to hold that stretch for a minimum of 3 to 5 minutes, sometimes even longer. And that's so we can open as a corrective stretch versus a warming up, get your body moving kind of stretch, okay? Now, if you don't know what to do, if you're curious about if you're curious about myofascial stretches, I do have a Facebook business page, and what I would encourage you is to go out there. It's go on to Facebook and just look for Energy Works Myofascial Release, and it should pop up. If you're on the basic internet, just Google Energy Works Myofascial Release, and in the search thing, you should see something about Facebook in there as well. But I have a lot of videos on stretching. So if you're not really sure what do you need to stretch, if you got areas of your body that are tight, maybe kind of scroll through some of those videos. You might find some that are very helpful for you, because there's some that are good for everybody, and then there's some that are probably going to be unique for you. But the only way I would know what would be unique for you is if I saw you in my office. So give those a try if you're curious. Take a look at them and try them out. See if they help you. The next thing is movement. Our bodies are meant to move. Have you ever heard if you don't use it, you lose it? That's what happens, okay? How many people have, worked in an office all day long and they sit all day long, then they come home and they sit some more, they sit on their phones, they sit in front of the TV, they sit on their computer, and what happens is their body gets tighter and tighter and tighter because they're not moving. They're sitting for very long periods of time, and it actually has a long-term effect on our bodies where some of the muscles that stabilize our back tend to shorten and get tight and pull us forward. So it causes a lot of back issues and causes a lot of neck and shoulder issues as well. Okay, could tie into the hips too, but typically I see a lot of back, neck, and shoulder issues because of all the sitting and the forward on our phone, on our computer, iPads, all day long kind of thing, okay? So we definitely don't want to do that. Moving also aids in stress relief. So have you ever had a really stressful day, you just need to get out and go for a walk? Even 5 minutes getting up and moving around is great for changing those restrictions in your body, gets things moving, change your mental state. It helps elevate that positive thinking and emotion. So keep moving. It doesn't have to be this super big workout. Although I would encourage you, if you're not doing anything, start walking. And if you've been walking and you feel like you need to do more, well, then there's a lot of gyms around and there's a lot of at-home programs as well. So if that's something you're interested in, you can definitely reach out to me. I've got some great suggestions for you, but start with walking. Walking is super important and it helps undo all that sitting down that we're doing all day long, okay? The next one is rest. Rest and sleep. So many people I see come into my office complain of not being able to sleep very well. Sometimes it's their bladder. Bladder is getting them up and that can happen. There's other things going on there. But sometimes they're just so restless. It might be that they're in pain. And some of them is just, they're just having a hard time falling asleep at night or having a hard time staying asleep at night. So we talked about nutrition and carbohydrates. What do most people tend to do at night before they go to bed? After dinner, they have chips, they have popcorn, they have ice cream, they have all these carbohydrate kind of things, or they have a glass of wine or beer, or maybe they have a lot of it, who knows? That all disrupts your sleep because you're giving your body carbohydrates, which is meant to give you energy. So if you're having trouble resting at night, that's one of the things you want to avoid. At least you want to cut it back to that happy hour time frame so you have an extended period of time where your body is burned off that energy and now it's getting ready for bed, okay? Having a consistent time frame to go to bed is also important for you to get a good night's sleep and rest. And the reason for that is we are habitual beings, okay? We do things by habit. We tend to be hungry around breakfast. We tend to be hungry around lunch. We tend to be hungry around dinner, or sometimes there's a trigger that makes us hungry, okay? Well, same is true for your body, getting up in the morning and going to bed at night. How many people are waking up around the same time every day with or without an alarm, okay? Some of it's the sun wakes us up because, we're born wild. We're all born wild. We are beasts, animals, and beasts on this planet. So we are creatures of nature. We have an alarm clock that sets our time or dictates our time if we got to get somewhere and make sure we're up at a certain time, okay? But otherwise, we tend to follow the sun and the moon. So having a consistent time that you go to bed at night helps your body start to prepare for bed. Meaning, okay, it knows it needs to start slowing down because it's going to get ready for bed to repair and recover for the night so you can get up the next day and do the same thing all over again. Okay, so a very consistent bedtime. Also recommended to have 6 to 8 hours of sleep a night. So an average of 7. Some people need a little bit less, some people need a little bit more, but that's a good average. Okay, so for you, think about when you're tired, how much sleep did you get? Okay, if you feel like you were really rested, how much sleep did you get? Okay, and try to repeat that pattern. Find a time frame that will work for you so your body is getting prepared for bed so it can rest and recover at night, okay? So we talked about the carbohydrates. We talked about consistent bedtime. We talked about 6 to 8 hours of sleep on average of 7. A couple other things to think about. So shutting down the blue screen devices, things that put that blue light in and triggers your brain, basically. That means your phones, that means the TV, that means your iPad, that means the computer. All those things are stimulating your brain. So if you want to shut those things down 30 to 60 minutes before you go to bed, because that will help your body, help you fall asleep faster, okay? If your brain is all wound up and you've had that stimulus going, you might have a harder time falling asleep at night, okay? And then you maybe want to think about the effects of what you're doing every day. So if you're in a fitness routine right now, sometimes our body's not resting because it's fatigued and overworked. And that could happen in a normal work day as well, where it's fatigued and overworked. So if you have the ability to change up your routine, to let your body rest so you don't have that repetitive injury trauma going on, you're more likely to sleep better. Okay? If you're always doing the same routine over and over and over again, and you're starting to get some inflammation and maybe some tendonitis, sore muscles that just don't seem to recover and repair, probably a good indication you need to change up your routine a little bit. Okay? And there's lots of things you can do out there and still keep moving. So, and then if you're working in an office throughout the day, sitting in front of a computer, because so many people do, I did it for years myself, and it's so hard on your body. Get up, give yourself frequent breaks. Even, like I said, a 5-minute break and walk around will help your emotions, help your positive thinking, and it gives your body a reset as well. So think about that for improving your rest in a day-to-day basis. So I hope that was helpful. If you have more questions on any of those 5 keys, feel free to give me a shout out. Reach out to me on Facebook Messenger, shoot me an email, or give me a call. I'd be more than happy to answer your questions. Have a good day.